morning, everybody. I'm Sean Jenkins, sector head of the Hedgeye GLL team, here today for another really important and fun update. I think we're going to have some fun here with Ismail Vali, former CEO and founder of YieldSec, now president of GCI. Has some really interesting stuff to comment on maybe as at the outset here, but we're happy to have him back, this time virtually through our Hedgeye studio format here. He's reporting live from an undisclosed location abroad, but we're going to have some fun today, talk about the online sports betting and iGaming industry. Always plenty of hot topics. Obviously, the expertise and the work that the team delivers from their end is on the illegal channel, and really highlighting that. I think they've done pioneering work in that department, and certainly has made it a more of a hot topic and actually top of mind for more investors, certainly people that follow our work. But in the context of all the narrative that's flowing around prediction markets, things of that nature, found like it was a good time to have you back. So maybe to kick things off, though, we have a little bit of an extended title there under your name there, Ismail. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about what's going on with YieldSec.
First of all, Sean, thank you for that lovely introduction. It's a pleasure to be back at Hedgeye TV.
Great.
YieldSec's had an interesting year. So the best way of putting this is I had an idea 5-6 years ago where I saw that there was more in the online gaming marketplace than people were acknowledging. And that thing was crime. Okay. Unregulated, unlicensed gambling risks every benefit that online gaming can provide to local commerce, community, and consumers. I had an idea for the business that became YieldSec, assembled the right team I'm extremely grateful to, and this year we were bought by a company called Gaming Compliance International, GCI. That happened just a few weeks ago, and they surprised me by then making me president of the company. So that's the reason for the extended title. Is I'm now the former founder and CEO of YieldSec and the president of GCI. All the YieldSec team and processes and platform have been rolled into Gaming Compliance International, and we now have an end-to-end business that covers everything to help our clients across legal stakeholders in the gaming industry and ecosystem. We help them move the marketplace from chaos to control. And the whole point of this is achieving certainty for our marketplaces, for local commerce and communities, and also to provide a fair and safe environment for consumers in every jurisdiction on the planet. So you asked me a bunch of interesting questions. I wanted to say it's great to be back here today. I'm looking forward to the conversation. Yeah. Let's start with some questions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think maybe just to follow up on the acquisition announcement. Obviously, congratulations from us here at Hedgeye to you guys. You know, hopefully we can continue the collaboration. It sounds like we can, as evidenced by today's event still taking place. But I was actually curious, does this acquisition in any way change sort of maybe where your central focus will be? Obviously, a lot of the investors that follow our work are very interested in what you have to say on sort of, Western Europe, and also the U.S. is most top of mind. But curious if your focus is going to be shifted at all, maybe abroad or what have you.
I'm going to borrow a line from Robert Downey Jr. here. Same task, different mask. All that we've done by being acquired is the mission here was always to end unregulated, unlicensed black market gambling, because that's what risks all the benefits that online gambling can provide when it's run right. There are a whole group of regulators out there who want to run it right. A whole group of licensed operators out there who want this business to be run right. And yes, a whole group of consumers who demand and desire these products and would love to see this business being run right. But it's not, is it? Because we have the presence of illegal, unlicensed operators, and behind them is typically crime. So what we need to get to here is control the marketplace, get rid of the chaos, bring it back to providing benefit for our local commerce, local community, local consumers. And that's the mission in every single jurisdiction on earth. 195 countries, 268 online gaming marketplaces. We're still seeing new marketplaces come in right now. We had Brazil go live this year. Brazil has been an interesting one. We did some special work on Brazil. 6-month report we did after regulation started on January the 1st. And what we saw was Q1, interestingly, 55% legal. One of the most successful marketplace launches, standing start. By Q2, however, that success was turning into failure. 55% for crime in the second quarter of the year. Now, that's a 10% quarter-on-quarter change from licensed to unlicensed dominance. And the issue there is this. When you're seeing marketplace interference, so you have a successful launch, and then politicians and media start talking about Well, how about we put the tax rate up? How about we bring in lots of new regulations and conditions and new rules? How about we restrict the products? How about restrict the advertising? If you don't give the legal business room to roam, room to compete effectively, they can't channelize the marketplace for you on their own. They need to do it with the tools we've been given. And we've talked about that a lot on Hedgeye TV calls.
Yeah, definitely.
Give the operators the tools they need, the products they need, the competitive advantages they need, and fair tax rates that allow them to populate the marketplace and convert consumers away from what was there before, which was unlicensed and unregulated gambling. So what we're going to is a future where you need to be in control of the marketplace and see those issues, politicians and the media talking about, well, we're making good money on this 3 months of performance in Brazil. Let's put the tax rates up.
Yeah.
And what happened was all the operators, the legal license guys, stopped spending money, stopped marketing, and illegal and unlicensed brands came back with a vengeance. So from a standing start, it was a great launch, one of the most successful in online gaming history, but it's already turned into this fragile kingdom of what might happen next if they keep making changes and even talking about those changes. So we've got a whole bunch of these issues going on in the United States right now. And for me as a focus, running the new business, the expanded business of YieldSec and Gaming Compliance International, the task is the same. Let's get rid of unregulated, unlicensed gambling. Let's make sure that the marketplaces are efficient and working for the legal stakeholder community. So nothing's changed for us. We're going to be carrying on with all of our work in the US. It's our most comprehensively covered market in the world. We're talking to regulators, operators in the US. We're doing the same. My undisclosed location today is somewhere in Asia, in the Middle East. I'm not allowed to say where because, again, our view is for our clients, we only name our clients if they want us to talk about them. But otherwise, we are the brand and the business and platform behind them, helping them look at the awareness, ability, and actions to help them control their destiny and control the online gaming marketplace in favor of legal brands.
That's really interesting color there on Brazil. I didn't know we were going to get those insights. Is it what you guys are seeing? Is it brands in the illegal channel that previously, because as I understand it, Brazil was similar to the Ontario launch where gray market, black market operators were able to come forward and actually participate, and pay taxes and be licensed operators. Not all of them became licensed operators, but as I understand it, Brazil was similar. Are these the operators that you're seeing taking share? Not that we need to name them. Are they some of the operators that were in place maybe a year ago and now are just coming, as you put it, back with a vengeance? Is that what it is, or is it more? Got it. Okay.
Absolutely, Sean. So what we have here is basically, look, Brazil had nearly 5,500 brands when we first started monitoring nearly 3 years ago in Brazil. Okay, 5,500 competing, unlicensed, unregulated brands because there wasn't a regulation. Beginning of this year, you've got 139 license applications, turns into a couple of hundred licensed brands, effectively, because you can have more than one brand on a license. But for all those other thousands who stayed out and potentially could have converted, because Brazil had this pragmatic, common sense model of, we don't really mind who you were or what you did, but you need to come in, get a license fee, pay taxes, and comply from now on. So Brazil was open to that, as many other marketplaces have been, especially in the developing world. They're open to, we'd rather have that money inside the house than just outside, okay, being stolen from the marketplace. So there were thousands of operators who basically didn't come in, but had a kind of, let's wait and see. Let's see how it goes. And what they realized in the first 3 months was, okay, this is working really well for the legal sector. 55% control is the most successful launch ever of an online gaming marketplace in 3 decades of this business.
Wow.
IQ2, when the politicians and governments had got into it and started saying, oh, well, let's put the tax rate up because you guys have got money and we want some of it. That's what made the legal industry get cold feet and stop spending as aggressively on bonusing and new account registrations, etc. And then you've got a whole bunch of unlicensed, unregulated guys sat on the fence who are kind of like, we don't need to pay the tax. We don't need to license. Let's just activate the existing database if they'd even stopped operating, kind of thing. So many of them just carried on to say, well, let's see how good the enforcement is. And in the first few months, the enforcement was great, but it wasn't comprehensive enough. So what those illegal brands did, these unlicensed and unregulated guys who sat outside the marketplace, they just came back in and reactivated. And that's a 3 decades of experience piece there where they have got hundreds of thousands and millions of customers registered already. It's an easy thing to send them a text and a notification, get them back an aggressive bonus. So that's the problem there, is that the legal industry is constantly converting back from what was the unlicensed and unregulated world. You need to accept that there is a competitive war that goes on in any new marketplace in the first few months and first years, particularly. If you don't allow the legal operators the tools they need to fight that war, there will be problems. And what will happen is you get this invasion again of unlicensed and unregulated brands because they already have ownership of the customers.
Mm-hmm. No, that's really interesting color. I'm sure that's a little bonus for us before we even really get into the meat here. Ismail, I was wondering if maybe you could just refresh people's memory a little bit on all the work that you guys have done on the U.S. sector. You guys put together another great slide deck for us here. Maybe you could go through just a couple of the slides, and for those that are newer to some of your work, which every time we do these, usually there's someone that maybe hasn't heard from you guys and really understands really the breadth and depth of the legal channel and its prevalence across the U.S. Maybe some just initial perspective here, and then we can kind of kick around some questions that I've already prepared on my end.
Very happy to do that, Sean. Where we're coming from is we look at the total marketplace, okay? So legal plus illegal, or unlicensed versus licensed, okay? So we're looking at everything that the audience are participating with, everything they're engaging with, everything they're interacting with, everything they're transacting with. So we're looking at that from above, metadata, and working out where the audience were, how much time they spent there, which pages they visited. So we get to a great data set. From that, we work out our GGR, how much money was left behind in a value per visit terms. And that's different for every single site and app in the marketplace because every single site and app has different bonus policies, different deposit thresholds, different products, different offers, different prices on their bets, different things that they're offering the marketplace to convert from. And how they got the audience there as well is important. The work we've done in the US has been one of our most comprehensive marketplaces. We call it the USA everything because we do literally everything across the marketplace. We even look at the illegal streaming that's leading to fueling the growth of illegal gambling. So what we've done in the US is basically show that there is not just a shadow industry, not a black market. We use very clear vocabulary here. So this is legal and licensed versus illegal and unregulated and unlicensed operators in the marketplace. So what we're looking at here is a marketplace in America that last year was worth $90.1 billion for online sports, casino, and poker, including predictors on sports only. So not predictors on Bitcoin, not predictors on weather, not predictors on, will Barbara Streisand die this weekend, which we've mentioned many times. Barbara Streisand is a saint, just to be clear. We know not long live Barbara Streisand. So the point here is, huge marketplace, but the legal size of that is only $23 billion last year, 26% of the total. $67.1 billion is being taken out of America by illegal, unlicensed operators, okay? And there are 95 legal sports betting and casino operators licensed in the USA today, across all the states that have legalization, versus 917, okay, illegals. Now let's think about that in terms of what are the big headwinds here? So you have an outsized share of market going to unlicensed providers. You have a huge amount of unregulated, unlicensed operators out there, but this has become normalized for Americans over 3 decades of those brands existing. So what we have in America is a habit and reality of illegal gambling is the majority of online gambling, and everybody in the legal sector is being stolen from. So that's the reality right now today. We call 2025 a tipping point year. You had to get control of this marketplace during this year because next year we have bigger sports events. We have the World Cup. Not that that's got a huge American focus, but it's how it also allows illegal and unlicensed gambling to redouble its efforts across technology because they make so much money from elsewhere in the world, which they then invest into the US in targeting, in accessibility, in their ability to take transactions from American consumers and disguise and hide those transactions, okay? Because the more money they make elsewhere, what does crime do with money? It makes more crime, always, okay? So America's history is predominantly illegal online gaming, dominance of the audience conversation, dominance of audience conversions, dominance of audience transactions. The interesting thing is to look at where we are this year in the first 6 months. So this is a Hedgeye exclusive today. Could we bring up slide
8, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, let's go to slide 8, 2025 first half. So I mentioned here that we had 95 legal licensed operators throughout the whole of 2024. In the first 6 months of this year, that is the alarm bell to be heard very clearly from today's call. 57 legal licensed operators are left in America today. So this is a near halving of the spectrum of legal licensed online gaming operators, okay? Now, that's not coming from M&A. That's not coming from nice acquisitions like my company just experienced. That's coming from one thing, attrition, okay? These people are hitting the skids in their ability to make money. They are not making money. Investors are pulling their money out, and these businesses are disappearing, okay? Let's go to slide, just to put this in real context, okay? Let's put this, go to slide 11 for us, guys. We have the silent death of single product operators going on in the United States right now. So Penn National Gaming has the mausoleum because they have the biggest number of brands that have been retired. You have other I'm sorry to put it that way, but Penn National Gaming investors might be looking at this going, okay, well, at least it gets their focus back on retail gaming, which they are great at. But online, this is just one death after another, okay? They cannot seem to make it work. And the reason for that is not bad management. The reason for that is not unskilled employees. The reason for that is not rubbish brands. Barstool and ESPN were both giant killing brands. The reason is unregulated illegal gambling, taking share. So basically, even if you're DraftKings and FanDuel, your real market share position is way off the number 1 and 2 spot, because the number 1, 2, 3, 4 spots are all taken by illegals in America. So I never name them, but there is a dominance of American online gaming activity by the unlicensed and the unregulated. And that means there is less share, less audience attention, less participation from any legal brand in America. And what you're seeing now is what we've been talking about for a couple of years now. Change is coming, and that change is not good. So what we've ended up with, if we can go to slide 10, please, guys. We've had a marketplace massacre this year, and it's going to get worse. We're only showing you the first 6 months, where we dropped from 95 legal licensed operators in 2024 to 57 in the first 6 months of this year. We will be lucky if we come in just around the 50 mark for the end of this year, okay? So right now, who's the enemy? The enemy is crime. So the 2025 full year prediction is 77% goes to illegal, unlicensed, unregulated brands. 23% of the market goes to legal and licensed brands. So unlicensed and unregulated gambling is the enemy, okay? That is the big headline to have here. And this has been going on for 3 decades, okay? This activity. So we are into the hundreds of billions of dollars stolen from America, stolen from American commerce, community, and consumers.
Oh, sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. The 77% number is obviously massive. I think on a global scale, some of the work that you guys had shared with us directly, it was helpful for perspective on that. But 77%, that sounds to me like that would probably be close to the high watermark for, call it the Western world. Or are there some maybe in Europe that are a little bit higher?
So Europe's running at around 80% clip for the year at the moment. So Europe's bad, really bad right now. So Europe is as bad as I think it's capable of getting. And it's at the point where the EU 27, the European Parliament, they recently saw our work. We did a bunch of work for the European Casino Association. That was publicized earlier this year. There were articles in Bloomberg about it and stuff. And what it's pointing out in the EU 27 is you've got 27 countries with, again, very similar model to the States. Everybody's deciding their own destiny. Everybody's got their own gaming rules. Everybody's got their own tax rates. That lack of harmonization, lack of ability to open the lane to basically say, the headline for today was basically what happened to America's online gambling gold rush. That's what we were talking about 7 years ago. In Europe, the gold rush kind of was 15 years ago now. It's so bad that it's gotten in Europe now. It's just getting worse and metastasizing into even worse areas. So the more control, if we look at a marketplace like Belgium in Europe, for example, 5 years ago, Belgium had an 85% legal marketplace. 85% share went to legal license.
Wow, really?
In 2024, that changed to 85% illegal control. Okay? So literally a reversal of fortunes completely, because they basically gave the legal sector death by 1,000 cuts by basically going, we're going to ban advertising. We're going to ban cross-sell. So there's no ability for you to move customers from sportsbook to casino to poker. There have to be separate websites for those and separate databases for all of those things. So you separated the customers out. So there's no advantage to being a multi-product operator. You are effectively a single product operator many times over with completely separate databases and staff and Chinese walls like a bank kind of has. So you're completely separated out. Then they stopped all the sponsorships. Then they stopped any kind of affiliate marketing. Then they stopped everything to do with search engines. So one and done over and over again, basically banning certain things. And the illegals just warmed their hands on this burning marketplace by going, okay, we'll be there to dominate search engines. We'll be there to do any kind of advertising we want. We'll be there to advertise on all of the sports because we do it on the illegal streaming, which all of the young people use if you're under 35. You do not have the 7, 8, 9 accounts you need for streaming of sports events that Europeans consume a lot more sports than Americans do. Mm-hmm. So basically, you're illegally streaming, and what's there on 85% of all illegal streaming for sports that we monitor in Europe, what's there is illegal gambling. Always. They're the ones who are bringing this to you. And there is a horrible nexus everywhere in the world right now between illegal streaming, sports, movies, and TV, and illegal gambling. So the two things go together like tuna and mayonnaise, but it's appalling what they're doing to marketplaces right now because they're stealing from sports leagues and teams, the sports broadcasters, and then from the consumers too.
It was, correct me if I'm wrong, but Germany, maybe it wasn't as drastic as Belgium, but they basically shot themselves in the foot a couple times over as well over the last couple of years, right? In terms of
last couple of decades.
Decades. Okay, all right, got it. Okay, understatement of the century for me.
Yeah. Germany's been there a number of times, and basically it's the issues between the federal government and the states in Germany. So there's this constant tension between we want to control it based on the state model and the federal government who says, well, we need to control it and have tax harmonization and product harmonization and consumer safety. So Germany's been there and had this kind of long-term draft of we want this type of law. And it was, I think, nearly 9 years of back and forth between the landers, the provinces, and the federal government over this is what we want to have as a gaming law. Finally, every time they came up with a draft and it went in front of the EU threw it back at them and said, oh, it doesn't work. It doesn't fit with European Union law. So it kept getting pushed back. And that kind of inertia in political terms and in lawmaking terms has led to the illegal dominance, which means it's very hard to shift from. You have a very similar situation in the United States where each state deciding its own destiny. States that have done some great laws, have some great regulation, have some great run marketplaces. But the problem is you're still in that position of nationally, crime has a really easy pass here. Illegal brands can come in really simply and buy their advertising very cheaply for all of America. Whereas for a legal brand, I have to buy my advertising on the basis of a state legalized advertising model. So I have to go through Facebook and Google and show them my licensing. Illegals just lie and end up with cheaper advertising. So there's a real weird dichotomy here between this is the rule for legals and the price for legals. This is the no rule for illegals and a much cheaper price for illegals, and they get to have all the customers and just lie to everybody and make money with impunity. And that's the point of what we're trying to help change here is for all the legal stakeholder clients we work with, make this end. Make the dominance of illegal brands and the sway and seduction they have with consumers, make it end. But that piece where the marketplace massacre you're seeing in the United States this year, it's not necessarily going to get better quickly and easily. The ESPN deal going south for Penn National Gaming is a sign of worse to come in our view, okay? There needs to be a real control here of the predictor piece we're going to have to talk about today, okay? So prediction markets are another thing that hopefully there's some silver lining in the prediction markets piece. But mainly what people are talking about is all bad news. People are seeing this as it's sports betting. People are worried about this being the end of the sports betting industry. Tribal communities are extremely worried that this is taking their kind of tribal rights away, their ability to make money from gaming. So everybody's upset with the idea of prediction market platforms. But let's just focus clearly on this before we get into the prediction marketplace discussion. America has a love affair with online gaming, okay, for 3 decades. American consumers love, they demand and desire this product. When you start bringing law and rules in and saying, okay, well, we're not going to allow consumers near this product for reasons of morality or whatever other reasons you have for it, okay, you're looking at something where basically consumers are demanding and desiring this. They are going to get to those products. They have been getting to those products for decades, okay? What you're seeing in America is illegal gambling on the one hand, and you're in this perfect storm position right now. What you see in America is this. Illegal gambling still holds sway over consumers. 3/4 of the marketplace goes to illegals. Innovators have come along, and we're calling them innovators with inverted commas. Innovators have come to this, and they've looked at it and said, what if you didn't need to fit with the gambling laws? What if you could just bring the audiences the products that they demand, desire, and love, casino, sports betting, regardless of where they are in America? But just because they're Americans, we can distribute these things to them because, hey, everybody's using illegal sites anyway. So maybe we're doing something interesting by coming up with our innovative solution. That's got labels like prediction marketplaces, social casinos, sweepstakes casinos right now. So there's a whole bunch of these innovators who are out there saying that they're legal, sometimes being banned on the basis of sweepstakes. No, people have often tried banning the prediction thing at the moment, but it's all subject to the court decisions and court cases. Sweepstakes and socials are a sign of some states banned them, some states didn't. But it's a bunch of people who are in America trying to contribute to American community and commerce, but they're not paying the same tax as gaming is paying. And that's the big argument here is you're stealing from one pot of money here and you're saying you're something different. But remember that illegal gambling beats all of those innovators. You add up all of the traffic from the Kalshis and Poly Markets and everybody else, illegal gambling literally, it's not just double, treble, it's quadruple and more traffic, okay? So illegal gambling is your biggest problem. That is the enemy. What we need to now get into is what are predictors? What are they doing? What have they done to the marketplace? And what are they going next?
Before we jump into some of that, I just wanted to double back because a question that I have received from customers of mine, and I've wondered myself, right? If I'm an investor and I'm either invested in the gaming space or not, and I'm looking at this, and there were 95 licensed and legal operators in 2024. That number's down to 57. Let's call it, maybe it's closer to 50 now, because there's probably inevitably been some others that have died a slow death or a quick death, depending on the company, over the last couple of months. Less competition, right? Should not necessarily be a negative. Would be like a high level thought. What's your rebuttal to that? Would you see that as no? I don't need to surmise. I'll just hear you out now.
No, thank you. I get the question completely, and you're being very visceral around what is it? Can I not make more money here if there's fewer competitors?
Yeah,
there are way more competitors out there, but the problem is they have all the products, and the ones that you're leaving market share to in the legal sector, they ain't picking up that market share. So you're not seeing, because of every single product specialist, every single product operator that's dying this silent death in states right now. And that's why we're going from that 95 to the 57. For all of those deaths, is there not more room in the city then? Is there not more room in the iGaming bedroom? No, because it's all been taken by illegals, because they have the products that everybody wants to get in bed with. All of the products available all of the time on every platform, promoted ruthlessly across social media, okay, and across illegal streaming. Whereas if you're a legal brand who thinks, oh, well, those guys went out of business and those guys gave back their license and those guys are bust, surely I should get more business then. I should make more from my nut now. I got my license, I should get more business. No, you ain't getting it because it's all going to illegals. That's where the business is going. So unless you move crime, you will not control the marketplace. That's the problem here.
So the optics of, say operator X in the legal market or legal channel has 30% share, and then, a year later, as more competitors leave, they now have 33. Your point is that 33 is a fugazi. It's actually probably still the same share because the denominator is actually much larger and much different than people perceive it to be.
Absolutely. Look, we can see from the audience tracking here, the monitoring that we do, we know where the audience is. We don't know who they are. Yeah. But we know where they are and where they're spending their time. It is all with illegal brands, okay, to an embarrassing degree. That the appeal of illegal brands, even on simple things like look at last year's Copa America, okay? So a lot of legal licensed brands, of those 95 who were there in America last year, missed one really easy thing to see: multi-language options, because there's a Hispanic-speaking community who basically love Copa America and love betting on Brazil and Argentina and all the teams that were in the contest, okay? Everybody had English language sites, the legal licensed brands. Nobody had Spanish language. DraftKings recently launched one. And I was going
to say, hey, they're listening to you. They're ready to go for World Cup.
Yeah, should have had that ready for Copa.
Well, hey, can't turn back time, but we can look forward.
Can't turn back time, but it was one of these things that we were saying at the time to the press and journalists. We were saying, why does nobody have a Spanish language version in America when lots of people do speak English as their second language and would love to bet with a Spanish language platform that's also talking about their team from their home nation, their original nation, their fathers and mothers' nation. We're talking about the teams in Spanish, using the kind of vernacular for it. Nobody had that. So it was just a free for all for illegals who basically targeted the Hispanic speaking communities and went, yeah, we own you. And that seeding, this is the important thing to remember here. People get sticky to certain brands because now I'm on their database. Now I'm receiving notifications for them. Now I have their app on my phone. And even if you delete the app, do you think those guys aren't going to text you and message you and give you an offer to reactivate next year before the World Cup? Because, hey, you bet on Argentina last year in Copa, and we all know they're going to do great next year in the World Cup. So come on back. We've got $100 for you. That's how it works. Okay. Now, when all of the offers from all of the unlicensed and unregulated brands are that much more enticing and different from anything that legals are doing and able to do, because they have to obey responsible gaming rules. They have to obey common sense and investor sentiment too. We see offers from unlicensed brands where when the Obi-Wan Kenobi show came out on Disney Plus, okay, there was a whole series of ads pushing you to deposit $200 and you would receive a Lego Star Wars kit for the new spaceship that was in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. And they bought all of them from Amazon and they were sending them to people. And if you put $200 in, you got this Lego set. It was like wildfire, that promotion, because I mean, nobody in legal gambling could do that, would do that, should do that. But illegals understood there's a whole bunch of kids who like that stuff. And there's a whole bunch of 50-something-year-old guys who like it too. Activated a ton of accounts through that stuff. So it just shows you that that community, the illegal gambling sector, they really understand how to get to their audience and how to convert and monetize them. And that's the mission for them. It's not so much that they're in the gambling business as they're in the consumer control and money business. That's what it's about with unregulated brands.
Really, really good way to tie a lot of that discussion out. Definitely want to spend, our remaining 15 or so here on prediction markets. Maybe to set the table though, before we get into some of the slides that you guys have, and then, obviously we care about your thoughts. But if we take a step back, obviously you can see in stock prices the volatility over the last couple of months. I'm sure you've seen a lot of crazy articles written, some making sense, some making very little sense based on obviously your experience with prediction markets and understanding the product and how it overlaps with sports betting. But from your perspective, like, has anything materially changed in like how you perceive prediction markets impacting the US today versus say August, before this really caught fire and became a much bigger topic?
I think you've got the makings of a real great movie or TV show here, basically. This is like boardwalkempire.com. So there's a whole bunch of banned products we have in America, a whole bunch of states that haven't licensed anything. And now we've got not just the illegals, but you've got innovators coming through as well. So they're bringing some kind of new spin on old ideas. Let's just go back a little while with predictors. These things have been around for a decade plus, okay? And this is stuff that was in the Asian marketplaces 2-3 decades ago even.
Oh,
okay?
really interesting.
What we have on prediction platforms is FTX and Binance realized about 2014, 2015, just the same way that Facebook did in 2005, our central product is not that interesting to consumers. We need to put bells on it and whistles with it to make them keep coming back. So Facebook realized that what did they need? They needed games, because after you'd first gone on Facebook and looked at all the people you were at high school with and all of your ex-girlfriends and the people they married and the exes you had who got fat and the rest of it and had children, you ain't going back much anymore. But when you give them Farmville, now all those people who you made friends with again, now you can go and play games with them. And Farmville and Zynga Games became just these breakout products. FTX and Binance, the decentralized finance platforms, also realized that you can sell people Bitcoin conversions once every 3 months, and then people lose interest. But if you give them this product, this betting on outcomes of financial futures, betting on the price movement in Bitcoin, betting on stock exchanges, that stuff where you take zero risk on it because it's just audience member versus audience member, you're just the host, not the house anymore. You can sell them those predictor bets 15 times an hour, okay? So that's what they realized at FTX and Binance was this stuff brings people back to our platform and it has a high frequency return path. So there's a really interesting piece with predictors, which is this is one of all the global tracking we do. Predictors as a product have the most frequent return path of anything in the gaming, gambling, financial futures.
More than even more than casino?
Even more than casino, because casinos have much lower volume of people, okay? So the number of people we're seeing using the return path here is really interesting. And there are enough people out there who have seen enough YouTube and Instagram and TikTok videos and believe that they are not gambling, they are trading. on predictor market platforms. Okay, so they've been drinking that Kool-Aid for 10 years. If you look at FTX, when it collapsed, 15% of its value was tied up in predictors. Now, that's a huge amount of money when you're not the house. You're just taking money from charges and fees and charges and fees and charges and fees. And the whole point of everything with predictors is keep them coming back, because that's how you make your money. You need those charges and fees to make your nut in the predictor game, okay? Because the margins are horrendously small, okay?
Right.
It's between consumers, okay? So everything is audience-generated content. Wonderful. Let chaos reign. Let them talk about Biggie and Tupac being resurrected on Christmas Day with Jesus. That was one of the biggest bets on predictor platforms last year at Christmas, okay? People were buying that bet. Why? So they could put it in their social media feeds. They didn't even care what the outcome was, okay? But they realized that this is funny. They also realized that you can shape the future by putting more money on it. So these things are more likely to happen. And there's a whole bunch of stuff here around integrity and credibility and the rest of it, which we shouldn't get into today. What you're looking at, if we could bring up slide 15, okay? Right now in America, you have a perfect storm taking place, okay? So you've got crypto growth. That's a discussion for a future call, okay? You've got illegals, which is the biggest storm cloud ever, because let's please not lose sight of the fact this prediction stuff is just a flash in the pan compared to what's really going on with illegals. We are looking at hundreds of billions of dollars taken from America by illegals. You are looking at tens of millions of dollars being taken by predictors. Yes, it's growing every day. Yes, it's explosive, but it's not there yet. Illegals are your main issue. Then you've got socials and sweepstakes, another innovator. And now you've got prediction markets, okay? So as the saying goes, in a storm, you don't go around it, you have to go through it. So let's go through this prediction market area and see where we're going to end up with this. So prediction market platforms, yes, it's a threat. Yes, it's a risk. Let's understand it a bit better by going through some of the next slides. So putting this in context on slide 16, let's look at what predictors were doing last year, okay? So online sports betting in America is legal in 30 states. Prediction markets have 50 states, okay? People are dealing with that now. This is last year's position. Legal online GGR for sports betting, 14.5 billion last year. Illegal, nearly 32 billion, okay? Now, this is the interesting part here. On the legal side of this, legal predictor brands present in America. So we're talking pretty much just about Kalshi at that point during last year. The market hadn't entered yet. 0.22% is their revenue versus all of sports betting revenue. But that's hiding something, isn't it? Because you're hiding there the money that takes place between the consumers. Because all that Kalshi gets, all that Polymarket gets, is clipping the ticket on fees and charges, transaction fees and charges. Right. That's what they're getting. Now, when you look at what the illegals learned here, and they learned it real fast and real well, prediction platforms have the ability to severely cannibalize sports betting revenue. Because what you're seeing there with illegal prediction platforms, they're taking nearly 8% away from the sports betting GGR. So illegals realized very quickly, this is a product you want to control and you want to multi-product it with other things like the casino. And the reason you want it with the casino is that's where you can send people after their prediction bets fail, after their trading gets boring, you push them into the casino where you can make 30, 40, 50% margin on them. But that's the point here. Push them into other products. So illegals learn really quickly here, have the whole suite of products. Now, the way that legal predictors are being built up in America right now, they're trying to define themselves as nothing to do with gambling. So everybody from the prediction market platforms is saying, the guy from Polymarket came out swinging recently, the CEO, saying that, look, sports betting is a scam. So it's an interesting way of kind of leading with attack, basically. So when you're out there putting out, marketplace fermenting statements like that and trying to cause trouble, I understand why. You're an innovator. You have to do that kind of stuff. You're a challenger brand. You've all read the kind of play-by-play brand books on how to do this stuff, create headlines all the time. So I understand why they're saying this. I did the exact same thing when I was running PokerStars. We wanted to make poker different from all other gambling. But when did PokerStars really make its money? When it cross-sold people. So the point here is they're trying to define themselves as something that's not gambling. The opportunity here, that's the silver lining in this, okay, and all this perfect storm that's going on. The opportunity that I see here, use predictors to get to multi-product legislation and real fast, because what you're seeing is prediction markets have the ability to cannibalize sports betting revenue. They definitely do, okay? Because for the younger audience, what's going on right now, prediction market platforms, when we talked about them before, Sean, I said these are the room of crazy. When prediction market platforms are illegal, okay, when they don't have to obey any rules, any respect for morality or decency, when they can have celebrity Deadpool betting, when they can be talking about how many people will be killed in Ukraine or Gaza today, which is what goes on the illegal platforms, okay? When that's that room of crazy, it's really interesting to consumers because it's tied in with their social media feed, the news, the scandal, the fake facts, the memes, all of that's what's tied in there, okay? And this is a product, predictors, that have grown up hand in hand with social media, okay? So they are absolutely wedded and embedded together, these two. That room of crazy is what's interesting to consumers. Right now, we're all outraged over prediction market platforms, and these guys are taking from sports betting, and they're not classing themselves as gambling. But as the American Gaming Association said on this, look, they're sports betting, and there's only one name to give this stuff. So I'm not necessarily saying I'm on the fence about this. I just see it as this is innovator gambling. It's one of these byproducts of, it's a safety valve that's gone off here because you're not giving consumers the products they demand and desire. All products should be legalized, licensed, and regulated, okay? That's what's going on in America. Why you're seeing this is because you haven't got to the legal licensed marketplace. Let's put this in context on slide 18, team. So we've got prediction market platforms versus traditional legal online gaming, okay? So right now you're looking at basically Kalshi, Polymarket, DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM, and Caesars, okay? That's their aggregated visits from January to October this year, okay? All the audited data we have. So we're in the hundreds of millions of visits here, okay? But put this again, let's see what's going on there with Kalshi and Polymarket. It's share that's significantly growing. It's not rivaling a DraftKings or a FanDuel, but they've obviously jumped in and said they're going to join these guys too.
Yeah.
Why? I understand why they're doing that, because they've seen that frequency in the return path. Consumers who are happy to engage with the product again and again and again in the same day. If you're taking a position on an event, you're coming back extremely frequently. Now, I think what DraftKings and FanDuel are seeing there is this. If you were multi-product in the future, if you could have all the products in one place, if you could share that audience database across many products and they were all legal, however you want to treat predictors in the future, predictors on sports events, contracts, whatever name you give them, be aware that there is a future where those consumers can be cross-sold into other gaming products. If all products are legalized and licensed and regulated, taxes being paid on them, that is the future I think we're opening the door to here. So there is a piece of this which is get the audience to all of the products. The prediction market platforms on their own won't be able to achieve that, but alliances with the gaming brands would achieve that for them, because that's what you're seeing from the illegals. The illegals are clearly showing you predictions plus all the other products means you make more money, period. But the prediction market platforms for illegals are being used almost as a loss leader, a break-even leader, to just bring in more audience more frequently. That's what's going on out there right now.
Do you feel like because DraftKings and FanDuel and I think Fanatics has already launched
Yes.
mostly, I mean, exclusively away from markets where there is a legal, gaming control board and it's regulated and they're paying taxes and what have you. Do you think a big part of them is hopeful that these court cases get tied up and they're ultimately able to actually offer a predictor product in, say, a Massachusetts or a New York or a Connecticut or something like that? Or do you think that's so far off that they have to see how it works when they launch in California, Texas, and Washington and things of that nature? Florida, I guess, would be on the list as well.
Really good question. I think a lot of these brands, and if you look at the way that they handle the press, the media, and politicians, and the way that they have contempt for the judicial process, and the way that they constantly use the best legal teams they can to just go and cause chaos there, basically.
Yeah.
I've run 3 challenger brands in my career. I've taken 3 gaming brands to global #1 and hundreds to local #1 when I was an operator, okay? I understand exactly what they're doing. They basically have the measure of, if you are going to make these companies successful, if you're going to make money for yourself and you're going to play the share price game of publicly trading yourself, you make as much noise as possible and cause as much innovator, challenger, chaos as possible, which means sue everybody. It doesn't matter if it works or not.
Yeah.
What matters is you're in the press all the time. The audience are loving you, and the traffic shows that they're loving you because you're controversial, and that leads to investor money. Kalshi having a marketplace value the other day of $50 billion. How on earth is that justified?
Yeah.
It's not.
Was that Polymarket or was that Kalshi? I forget. It was a Poly.
Whichever one it was.
Yeah.
But basically, saying that any prediction market platform with embryonic revenue, nascent revenue, okay, is worth $50 billion is insane. Okay. There is nothing in that product set that means you're going to make that kind of money. There is nothing there that suggests you're going to make that kind of money apart from the controversy. That's what's suggesting it. So people are thinking this is the new gambling. It's the hot way of gambling. And it's not really gambling because it's sports events contracts and all this complexity. What is the most used word on any prediction markets website? The most used word on any prediction market website is bet. So it's insane that everybody's at pains to kind of call themselves, well, we are basically event contracts. We are information markets platforms. And then on the homepage of lots of these sites, they say things like, we're the place where you can bet on anything, even the weather. So they can't get away from it. And then they get in trouble with these kind of anecdotal things of like being on LinkedIn and stuff, where they're saying, we're recruiting for sportsbook managers. Oh, did we say sportsbook? We shouldn't have said that, should we?
We'll pull a job posting and put it back up without the word sportsbook.
Pull the job posting. So again, everyone's kind of laughing behind a curtain here because it's kind of like, I know exactly what this is. I did the exact same thing with poker when I had my time. So poker wasn't gambling. It was a male rite of passage. It was what you did if you were a guy and you were taking care of business and providing for yourself. It was gambling, but we had that speech of Matt Damon's from the movie Rounders where he's scolding his girlfriend and saying, what do you mean this is a game of chance? This is a game of skill. You know, the same 10 guys get to the final table of the World Series of Poker every single year. And once online poker started, you realize that no, they didn't get to the final table series of poker every year. I remember in 2008 running PokerStars, I sent 6,000 players to the World Series of Poker, and none of them were the same as the year before. So it was a crapshoot. It was out and out gambling. So the point here is focus on this is basically whatever you want to call it, and all the arguments out there. AGA calling this, no matter the name, it's sports betting. I understand why you're doing it. You're pointing at basically a legal industry that hasn't even really got out of the gate in America yet. It doesn't own the marketplace at all in any state. And the point there is we need more time and more control over the destiny of legal gambling in America. And we're not getting to it yet. Yeah. And now we've got innovators coming in and going, well, we're just going to rewire all of your house and tell you that you need to pay us for the electricity now. It's kind of like, no, hold on a minute. I've lost my marketplace opportunity. All of these legal brands are disappearing. And for investors, the investor sentiment is at a seriously low ebb for the gaming community right now.
Oh, it really is. Yeah, definitely.
Where am I going to see my money here? Where am I going to see the out on this thing? You told me this was a gold rush. And as we said at the beginning of this deck, what happened to the American iGaming gold rush, the betting and gaming gold rush, the legal betting and gaming gold rush? We were all told that 7 years ago. We're now going into year 8 from legalization next year, and none of it's getting any better. And the main problem here is this. The safety valve went off and led to all of these challenger brands, all of these innovator gambling things coming in, social sweepstakes and predictor platforms. It's also going to lead next year to more and more crypto nonsense, where we're going to be calling a whole bunch of stuff crypto gambling. And therefore, that means what? That it doesn't come under the normal rules, that you don't need a license for it. So there's a whole bunch of craziness going on in crypto stuff, which we're also tracking. That's a call for the future. But right now, all of this is pointing to one thing. You did not let everyone legalize all the products. And that legislation delay, that legislation inertia, whatever your reasons are, legalize, tax, and regulate all these products now, because that's the only way to get control of the marketplace, the benefit from commerce, community, and consumers that you want and you need in America. That's what resets this for everybody.
Very insightful as always. I think maybe to close out a key question that I've had, listening to you speak and provide all this perspective is, on the one slide you have this great graphic of the perfect storm. I guess maybe to turn this whole discussion on its head and think about it a little bit differently, not to always seem like I'm the perma bull on what ultimately sports betting could be in the U.S. But do you think we are close enough to a tipping point where states that have been sidelined or on the sidelines deliberately or just because they don't know any better, does all of the confluence of all of this finally serve as a real accelerant? What's your overall view? Not to say, I'm going to pin you down 6 months from now and be like, hey, you said this and blah blah blah, we'll check in, but just curious of your thoughts. Obviously you've seen how legalization can work really well, and you've seen how it can work the opposite. Curious if you think we're going to see some more states maybe move forward in the next year or two.
I think, look, the American state regulatory community is one that really understands its mission, really understands its war against unlicensed, unregulated criminal gambling, and also wants to take charge of the marketplace. The people I've met in the American regulatory community are all extremely earnest and sincere about wanting to make change happen. They also have to work alongside a whole bunch of politicians and lawmakers who maybe don't understand everything in this area that well.
Yeah.
I think the prediction market scandal, and that's what this is right now, the prediction market scandal is good in many ways, because what it's leading to is people needing to do something about it. It's created an urgency which I don't believe was ever present just from illegal gambling. And because illegal gambling came with all of this idea about it's in the shadows, it's on the dark web, all of which wasn't true, but it was the misunderstanding people made, because as we said at the beginning, online gaming marketplaces are icebergs. If you can't see below the water, how do I know that water's criminal? How do I know that water's unregulated and illegal? That was the problem. YieldSec took 5 years to illuminate that, and still we're educating audiences around the world. If you look at the prediction markets piece, it's burnt so brightly really quickly this year, okay? But it is a decade old, but it's been metastasizing and evolving in the background. Now it's turned up and gone, hey, we're new, we're different, we're not even gambling. And it's made everybody sit up and pay attention and go, hold on a minute, what are you? And what are you doing here? But the main thing, and we should probably close on that, is just to look at that piece on slide 18 again. Let's look at everything stacked up, prediction market platforms versus legal and versus illegal gaming. Illegal gambling dominates everything in America, okay? Everything. So you add up all the prediction market platforms traffic, all of the legal online gaming brands, the 57 who are left, it doesn't dent illegal gambling and what it's doing to America. And that's a message that should be seen here, is if we're going to do anything about predictors, let's do it about the whole marketplace here. Let's look at everything that's being taken away from America, the opportunity that's being taken away from commerce, community, consumers, and investors. And let's deal with all of this at once. But I believe the predictors piece for me is maybe what breaks the back of that political inertia, some of the state level inertia, and allowing regulators to properly own their marketplaces. I think that's maybe a good thing, is what comes out of this.
Very interesting. Very interesting stuff. We'll see how it progresses. It's obviously not going to be overnight. As we know, governments don't necessarily move that quickly, certainly not in this country. But Ismail, really appreciate the perspective. As always, look forward to having you back in future from a new undisclosed location, I'm sure, to be. No, I'm just kidding. Hopefully in the
studio again next time.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, hey, he's Ismail Vali, President of GCI now, former president and founder of YieldSec. I'm Sean Jenkins of Hedgeye GLL. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll be back next week with an event, not on gaming, but in the cruise line space. Take care now.
Thank you.
Thank you.